Let's get into it. Oops. Let's do it. Let's do it. Mm. July 19th. Let's go. Let's go. Hi, Mr. Casey. How are you doing? Hey, Ganchi. How are you guys doing? Doing good today so far? Hello. Hi, Truth Lover. How are you doing? Hope you guys have had a good day so far. Good evening, wherever you happen to be. I'm doing good. How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a little hot today. It's like 85 degrees. It's a little too hot for my liking, but Shando's relaxed. He's just chilling. Hello. Hi, Ganchi. Let me share my info as I always do, or I try to remember. 8 a.m. here, eating breakfast. Nice. What are you having? What are you having for breakfast? I like to know what people are having for brekkie. God is good even though we are not. Yeah, we're good and we're bad. You know? We're bad because we're cursed with original sin. But we're good because we are born in the image and likeness of God. That's what I believe. And we have a choice as to whether or not we want to, which road we'd like to take. The easy one or the hard one. And the hard one's that's the only way we're gonna come out stronger and better. Doesn't have to all be, it doesn't all have to be trial and tribulation. There are some things that can be achieved without too much pain, but for the most part, most of the, best things one can achieve or attain in life are achieved through more difficult means. We get stronger, like overcoming addiction, overcoming heroin addiction, when you're in the thick of it, you think that you're never going to go back to the way you were before. Your brain is messed up. You're never going to enjoy things the same way you were able to enjoy them before. But that's not true. That's not true at all. Things can get better, in fact. It just takes time and also getting back into doing the things you love. I mean, whether you feel like it or not, sometimes it just takes practice, kind of like socializing. With me, I'm a bit of an introvert, and if I don't go out and socialize regularly, if I don't join some type of group, this will end up being my comfort zone, and the longer I deprive myself of that, the harder it's going to be for me to get out there and meet people, and I'll just stay lonely for the rest of my fucking life if I don't just jump out of my comfort zone. And more doors open that way, You take the first leap and then more doors will open, and it gets easier and easier. It's not hopeless. We're not defeatists here. Our dopamine receptors, as I always say, they do revert back to normal. And I'm not like selling anybody anything. I'm just saying it like it is because I've been there. And I thought that everything was hopeless at one point, but it's not. It's not. I wish I would have had a better guidance in that regard. But it really does help to have a good counselor when you're early in addiction. Let me share my info here. How's everybody doing? Hey, hey, hey. Okay, let's see. Oops. Share my info. I'm also a painter, by the way, and I do accept commissions. If you're curious about what art I create, you can check it out on my Instagram. I'll share it right here in a minute. Okay, and then my Discord. I'll just put Instagram at the bottom. Emerald, my Discord is emerald_wing_13473. So Emerald like a gemstone _wing like a fairy wing _13473. My Instagram is Anna, oops, 2 A's, dot Katrina, Katrina .art. There we go. And I'll pin that for what it's worth. Uh-oh, I better plug in that thing there. Ooh, snap, oh, snap, oh, snap. Okay, I gotta go get a charger for my light here. 1 second. Right. Oh. Okay, why am I trying to be Michael Jackson now? What's up, dog? Hey, Chris Max. Enjoy the live stream and keep it positive friendly. Thank you. Yeah, this isn't a dating app, precisely. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're good. I'm glad I made you my moderator. Sometimes I'm a little hesitant about that because you never know, right? But I appreciate you. Hi, Lightning Wolf. Hi, Carl Manson. Shout it out. Hi, Mr. Worm. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. Amen. That's what's up. The earth is not flat, my friend. We aren't human beings created from scratch. We are uncreated, eternal consciousness. Temporarily looking through a very narrow biological window. I think science and God can come hand in hand. You know, I believe in evolution, but I also believe that God initiated it. Hi, how's it going? Hi, Carl. Texas is huge. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going there, seeing if I'd like to live there. A lot of really good YouTubers live in Texas for some reason, I notice. I just try to keep it healthy and positive so everyone can share their own experiences. That's what's up, my friend. You didn't make it, Carl. Well, if you mean that you relapsed, then, I think that there's a reason for why you're here. And I think that I think relapse is almost always par for the course when it comes to a lot of things. You just get back up, man. And that way you can't say that you failed if you can get back up and keep trying. Sometimes you get back up and sometimes you just become stronger and stronger the more you get back up and keep fighting, man. What's my age? I'm 35. You're looking very healthy. God bless you. Thank you. I'll take my whiskey neat, my coffee black, in my bed at 3. You're too sweet for me. You're too sweet for me. I can't sing to save my ass. I wish. I have my black coffee. Just finished it. I love my black coffee, man. Don't care what time it is, because you know what? Sometimes black coffee makes me sleepier for some reason. I heard that caffeine can make people with ADHD more tired. I'm not sure. That could very well be the case, because I know I've got ADHD. That's like very prevalent in my family. Especially my dad's side. Like, he's got really bad ADHD, man. Thank you for the gift. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, you heard that too? I'll look it up and see if it's accurate. I don't want to be spreading misinformation. We're all red today. All right. Let me see. Sit down. I know I shouldn't vape. You're not telling me anything I don't already know, man. Again, it's damage control, and that's not an excuse. I'd really like to stop. I really would. It's just another one of those habits that I need to try to quit at some point. I do have, where is it? I do have this thing, which is always advertised, but I'm disappointed in it. It's not very satisfying. I wish a plume of something would come out. I don't know. Boring. Okay, anywho. If there's really nothing, if it's out of sight, out of mind, there's really nothing else for me to vape or smoke or whatnot. Maybe it would be a little easier for me to, get through it. But yeah, it's also hard when there are people around me vaping too, man. Not that excuses it, but it does make it harder. One can't deny that. I don't even think, like, if my family were doing like what I was doing before, the heroin, which, no, of course not, they're not, and they've never touched it. I'm in a good place, being nowhere near that. But if, like, when I see, like, families, like parents who are on drugs and their kid has a drug problem, but I almost feel like that kid's gonna have a much harder time getting clean if people they can't avoid are doing it all around them, And it's actually not that uncommon with people who become addicts. Oftentimes their parents are addicts too. Not always, but it happens. Kirk Douglasina. You're only saying that because of the dimple, man. Why can't I tack? Okay. Does ADHD wait. Does coffee make you more tired with... Yep. Yes, caffeine can make some people with ADHD feel tired, calm, or even sleepy. Yeah, it does that to me. Because ADHD brains naturally have lower baseline levels of dopamine. I've also heard that people with ADHD also have more of a propensity to become addicts because of that sort of thing. Because our dopamine is a little bit unbalanced, I guess. That's not fair. That's mean. Because ADHD brains naturally have lower baseline levels of dopamine. I wonder if that's why we gotta always be busy, to keep ourselves stimulated, to keep those levels, regulated. Wow. The mild stimulant boost from caffeine works similarly to prescription medication. Wow. It provides the stimulation the brain has been desperately searching for, which quiets mental hyperactivity, relieves restlessness, and allows the mind to finally rest, resulting in a feeling of exhaustion or drowsiness. Yeah, that's what happens to me. In the morning when I drink coffee, I'm thinking, sometimes it gives me energy, sometimes it doesn't. It's weird. It's like in the morning, I'm drinking my coffee thinking that it's going to give me a good start to my day, but then I'm like, tired. However, the reaction varies heavily by individual. I think my grandma was like that. Others may still feel highly anxious or jittery. While a cup of coffee can offer temporary relief, it is not recommended for long-term ADHD treatment. It wears off quickly and can cause sleep disruptions, which only worsen ADHD symptoms of one day. That's why I try not to drink more than 2 cups per day. Huh. That makes sense. Interesting. I wonder if that's one of the reasons why I stopped when I stopped taking Wellbutrin. I just felt so much better, and I just stopped taking SSRIs altogether because they didn't seem to, give me any improvement in my mood, anxiousness, whatever. Coffee, Coke, soda. Yeah, I like my black coffee in the morning, regardless. Everything is for an adrenaline boost. Yeah, everyone's chasing it. You look like Jenny from Forrest Gump when she was a kid. When she has a kid. Oh, I forgot what she looked like. Wasn't I'm trying to remember who the actress was. Jenny from Forrest Gump. Let me look that up. Forrest, run, Forrest, run. I do know it's like, wasn't that Haley Joel Osment's first film? He was the little kid at the end. Guy who's the kid from The Sixth Sense who's like, I see dumb people. They're everywhere. They don't know they're dumb. Kidding. Yeah. That's a good movie though. Huh. Well, she's pretty. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen that in so long. That's such a good movie. It's a classic. It's a classic. I like movies like that, They're not that predictable. I didn't find the movie too predictable. I like movies that aren't too predictable. Yesterday I started watching Forrest Gump, but I can't ever get over the fact that Jenny was using Forrest like an emotional trash binder. Yeah. It's been so long, I don't even remember it. I'd have to watch that again. I only remember bits and pieces. Like, obviously the part where it's like, run, Forrest, run. And where she's like the only kid on the bus who was nice to him. I remember that. I remember when she was like nude playing guitar. I remember at the end where he's like, oh, the ending made me cry, man. Where he's like, is he gonna be smart? Is he that part made me cry, man. I know someone who's kind of like Forrest Gump, and he's just an angel. Like, wouldn't hurt a fly. Good, just a genuinely good human being. The guy's going straight to heaven. I know that. Like, he's just a good person. But I mean, he's smarter than Forrest. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of has some of the same, you know. I don't know. He it's hard for me to explain. But he's just really nice. It'd be easy. He's too good for this world that it's easy for him to get taken advantage of by bad people, Like if some guy, like weirdo, comes up to him and asks for shit, he's gonna hesitate and be all like, sure, you can have some money or whatever, He's had friends take advantage of him and take his money. I'm not gonna name drop anymore or tell you who I'm talking about, but yeah, it's I hate seeing that, you know. Fortunately, he had an intervention where people told him, hey, we can't be having that, you know, and a lot, you know, we all stood up against those people who were taking advantage of him. Someone I know. Yep, treat everyone the same. Or at least start from ground zero, you know. It's like, if you don't know someone, treat them, you know, just treat them like you treat anyone else with just general respect, right? Decency, be civil. But if they treat you like absolute shit, don't put up with that, you know? If they're very, very kind to you, you know, be kind back to them. You know, I just, you know, I'm generally nice to people. I start out being nice to people. But if they treat me like crap and they're mean and rude, then I'm just like, I'm not putting up with that. Like, what the heck? What are you talking about? See you later. Yep. Then they go. General respect gets you taken for granted. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, though. That's why I kind of think you should start at ground zero, you know, not... Don't give too much of yourself or your heart or whatever away, because people can weaponize that if they're not good people. Just be careful when you don't really know people too well, you know? Sometimes we think we know someone and we don't. There's also that. Thank you for the gift, man. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Bean. Oh, I love Mr. Bean. That's a good show. You know? It's kind of like... I don't know, it reminds me of Tom and Jerry a little bit, because it's like, no, there's really not much dialogue, but it's all really clever slapstick British humor. It's like Tom and Jerry mixed with British humor. That's so funny. Yeah, start with caution. People might not be what they appear to be. Precisely. It's good knowing about red flags, you know. I wish I would have been more aware of that back in 2010, 11, 12, 13. Jeez. I could have moved on a lot faster. Might even, you know, be with someone who, you know, who treats me right, you know. But I was naive and thought I could thought I had to change. And goodness knows I tried. Hey. So many wolves disguised as sheeps. That's right. Thank you for... Oh, I like the goat. Thank you. That's very pretty. Thank you. Thank you for the sunshine, JC. Thank you, Mr. Mr. Bean. Cute. Thank you, Nate Smith, for that goat trophy. I like the eagle too. That's cute. Hello, how are you doing tonight? Hi, Patrick Powell. How are you doing? I'm doing good. We're just talking the talk. If you haven't been to this channel, we talk about addiction and recovery from addiction and how to cultivate better habits. It could be any addiction too. It doesn't have to be all hard drugs. You know, I mean, if you want to improve your life, just in general, this is a good place to be, I think, you know? I mean, at least, I mean, there are all kinds of ways we can improve ourselves and make ourselves a little bit happier. Getting back into better routines and practices and habits, and such as me getting back into my painting, you know? If I don't paint, then I feel like I am depriving myself on a spiritual level. It's like I'm renouncing the gifts that God has given me, and then I become rusty from that. Then I become depressed, and that's the worst thing I can do for myself. Stop painting, stop doing the things I love, you know? that puts me in a dangerous position where I get bored. And when if you've been a heroin addict for 6 years, then boredom isn't a good thing. I mean, when I get bored, I don't crave anymore. Thank you for the gifts, Mr. Bean. Goodness, thank you. Thank you very much, man. But yeah, I mean, if I do get bored, I tend to just feel like shit, and then I'll smoke weed, and then I won't get anything done. I think I try to only smoke weed after I've completed all of my obligations and tasks. Did some chores, took care of Shando. I need to go to the grocery store to get him a load of groceries. Shando needs some food. He gets the good stuff, man. That Shando gets to eat gourmet because he's got food allergies. Oh, thank you. 1990 weed. That was a year before I was born. Thank you, Mr. Bean. I love those little stars. They're so pretty. Like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Chris Max. Are you saying you still crave heroin? I do not. I honestly don't. There was one time when, just not even that long ago, 3 weeks ago. No, it seems like maybe a little longer. This was in June. So yeah, about a month ago. My mom had a health crisis. And she was taken in an ambulance from this house. And I was scared for her. And that was followed by a depression, and I had a hard time getting up out of bed. And there was this one moment where, like, my mind almost entertained the idea without necessarily being serious about it. You know, I was just thinking back to how it felt. And there was just a moment where I'm like, wow. You know, wow, shish. But then I realized that these are dangerous thoughts I'm having. I need to distract myself with something else. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, I mean, that's very common. And I didn't let it, get ahead of me. If I let, I was like, just like, oh, these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts, hi, bye, I'm just going to smoke weed and go, take a nap. And that helped, That helped with the distraction. Or the cravings, I mean. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. What really helps me to, snap out of it, if you will, is I think of all the progress I'm gonna destroy. I think of Shando, my dog, him needing me. I think of placing more burden on my dad's shoulders when he has a lot he has to deal with. I think about it's almost like me throwing all of my dreams and aspirations into the trash. I'd rather paint. I'd rather play video games. I'd rather save my money and be able to afford a place to live. I'd rather one of these days meet a good guy and have a family with them. There are just so many things, man. I'd like to be able to go camping and go places, go on adventures and road trips without having to be within a reasonable distance to my dealer, lest I get heroin, dope sick, And there are just so many things in life too that I really enjoy. I enjoy life. I really do, and I always have. I love going places. I love going to the beach. I love painting. And I love my video games. I love reading. I need to get back into doing that more. Ever since I got my phone, actually, I haven't been reading as much as I used to. But I have a whole book list. Tangent for world president. Oh, dear Lord, man. I could never. Oh, I could never, man. That's the thing. I got, like, I'm pretty sure I have stage fright, man. I'd freeze like a deer in headlights. You know, and there'll always be people really trying to. Thank you very much, Mr. Bean. There'll always be people trying to get you in those gotcha moments, you know? They try to make you look stupid, you know, and it'd be easy to fuck me up like that. It would be easy to make me look dumb because I get anxious, I get panic attacks when it comes to, you know, presentations and stuff. I remember college. I remember trying to give a presentation on something one time. I mean, I got better and better with some things, especially when I was very sure of what I was talking about, right? But I couldn't figure out this one thing, and it had something to do with Photoshop. And it was like the first time I've ever tried Photoshop. And I don't know what I got wrong. We're trying to create like a video. We're trying to edit. He's trying to teach us how to edit and kind of splice things up and put things together in a video. And it had to be a certain like dimension, certain length, certain, I don't know, it was very particular. And I fucked it up. And I just stood there kind of awkwardly. You know, it was very embarrassing. Like the teacher's looking at it like, that's not what we asked for. I'm like, come on, it's my first time using Photoshop, man. I know to you it might be easy, but I've never used it before, you know? Yeah. Some people will try to fill your mind with negative thoughts, and you should stay away from those people. Precisely. Yeah, absolutely, man. Oh, thank you, Deltron. Yeah, you gotta be patient with yourself, man. I mean, if you've been on heroin or any other substance, you're gonna have to deal with the withdrawal. And you're gonna have to let that pass over, knowing that in the end you're fighting for something that's very much worth the fight, you know? It's very much worth the pain. It's very much worth it. It's going to be prisons, institutions, or death versus, you know, or just being dope sick, running from the dope sickness. You know, if you're a heroin addict, you can't avoid dope sickness every now and then because sometimes the dealer just doesn't show up. That's why, like, they'd always say it's good to have two dealers when you're an addict because if they're not around, you're fucked. You know, you're gonna have to go through the cure, and for some people that's a good thing. It kind of forces them to go cold turkey and might make them snap out of it and think like, what the hell am I doing with my life? You know, it's very sobering going through that. But most people, nah, they're gonna desperately, they're gonna do whatever they can to get their hands on whatever. They might ask around, or it's a very desperate thing. It's no way to live. It really isn't. You know, for something like that to take precedent over, you know, the things that truly matter in your life, like family and friends and your hobbies and skills and work and your dog or cat or God even, it's just terrible. It's a very dark place. Hey, you don't look like you take drugs anymore. Congrats. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I'm very glad to read that because when people tell me, hey, some people will just tell me on here, just trolls will tell me I look like a junkie just to get under my skin, and you know, every once in a while I think, well, do I really look like a junkie? But no, I appreciate that, man. Oopsie, dang it. Nope, not doing opioids. Wipe. Well, I am prescribed Suboxone. I'm prescribed that. And I am weaning down quite significantly. They had me on 3 strips a day. Now I'm on just one. So, you know, I'd like to be off of that stuff as soon as possible, but you gotta wean down bit by bit, unfortunately. You can't just go cold turkey because that's gonna have adverse effects permanently on your health. Mm-hmm. But I do vape, unfortunately. That's great. Taper down. Precisely. Precisely. You gotta do that. I knew someone who tried to go cold turkey on that, and it didn't work out very well for them. Oh, yeah. Let's lift some weights. Hey! Yahoo! Alright. Ooh. That's my Canadian layoff from when I was 7 years old. Yes. Heroin didn't make me creative in the beginning, man. I've been drawing and painting and being creative since I was a little kid. Since I was 3 years old, I've been drawing in my mom's textbooks. Drugged, you know, during the honeymoon phase, I had a spurt of productivity, right, in my painting, and I was in college. There was also that kind of push, you know. We had this 20 paintings class where we had to paint. We had to paint on 10 smaller substrates and 10 large-scale substrates, like 30 by 40 inches, you know, and of course, like, you know what I love when I'm painting? I love it when there are other painters in the room and I get to see what they're doing while and there's this, I don't know, it's not as lonely, you know? I like to have background music or my dog by my feet when I'm painting, you know? But, when that honeymoon phase was over, I stopped painting. I stopped doing anything but doing the drugs and trying to get the drugs. It was terrible. It was like again, I've said this before, it's like a succubus that lures you in, and before you know it, you're deep in it. You're deep in the shit. But yeah, I've been drawing and painting since I was a kid, man. One of my I think it might be on the wall, maybe it's not. I could go look for it, but I have this one watercolor painting of it was supposed to be like a native Hawaiian girl with a yellow dress and a red flower in her hair. I had painted that when I was like 11. And my dad says it's his favorite painting I've ever painted. It's watercolor. And I painted it on this green easel I got for Christmas. For every single Christmas when I was a kid, and every birthday, and every tooth fairy present, well, not every tooth fairy present, but for at least a couple, 2 or 3 of them, I'd always get a painting set. I'd always get an art set. It'd be like one of those beautiful tin sets with a image on the front of a bright image of fish or whatever. And then you have all these markers, all these colored pencils, all these pastels, blah, blah, blah. And it was so colorful and vibrant, and I loved it so much. I'd always get art sets. So my love for art and my, and I love art history as well. All that never stemmed from drug use, ever. For anyone to spread that misinformation around about me is just kind of sick. You don't need to do drugs in order to be creative. That's stupid. But a lot of artists do get into drugs, unfortunately. A lot of writers become alcoholics, unfortunately. In fact, sometimes it almost seems like alcoholism and being a writer or an author is pretty synonymous, almost. Many artists do heroin, yeah, but not all. And Usually, they were artists long before they ever started the heroin. The heroin doesn't cause creativity, doesn't cause artisticness. And to say that shit, to spread that shit around is so wrong. It might even make someone want to go try using, you know? Well, maybe I can be and because a lot of people glamorize and romanticize artists and painters and stuff. You're gonna make them think, well, now I can be great or a great artist if I use. No, that's not the case. And I would argue that probably 99% of all artists were artists long before they ever decided to go use. It's just within that scene, within that community, there are a lot of people who do use drugs. And it's easy to get, drawn into that when you have peer pressure. You start to think that maybe it's going to help my creativity. A lot of artists, like regardless of whether they've been doing art their whole lives or not, they want more creativity. Because it's not like an endless fountain of, that's what a lot of people think about artists. And it's not, it's very misleading. We're not an endless well of creativity. You can't just it's not like a magic wand, There's a lot of ideation that comes into play. There's a lot of, working through the creative process. And ideation is basically strategizing how you're gonna go about a composition or what you're gonna add. You are doing things that like practicing different techniques and different methods that are gonna help with the ideation and creative process, such as one technique I really liked was creating collages and just like cutting out magazine pieces that I really like, having a collage book, cutting out magazine pieces I really like, and just moving those pieces around on a piece of paper to see if I get any ideas from that. Or I'll take various elements of inspiration that I really love, like favorite artists or, photography, nature, whatever. And then I just combine all those elements to create my own piece. That's what a lot of artists do. They take various elements of inspiration and then combine it into their own unique whole piece. And that's fun. That's a lot of fun. Many wars happen because of peer pressure. Yeah, a lot of bad things happen because of peer pressure. Okay, buddy, I'll open the door for you. One moment, guys. Want to see my baby. He being a baby. Do you hear someone out there, baby boy? Sorry, we got no light in here. Okay, baby boy. Goodness, he's such a baby. He still smells like puppy breath. Okay. Hi. This is not a dating site, my friend. Sorry to say. Hello, you are so cute. I love following you. Thank you, Austin. I know, right? This isn't a dating app, man. Sometimes I have to remind people this isn't OnlyFans either, man. Like, what the hell? It's kind of awkward. What was my first time using drugs? Well, I became a heroin addict in, early 2017, I think. Or maybe it was at the end of 2016. But yeah, I was around that time. And I was an addict for 6 years. And I've been clean since February 28, 2023. I did that. And when I was trying to get off of that, when I was trying to get clean, I relapsed 3 times. I tried to substitute it with the alcohol. That nearly killed me. And especially when I'd combine it with those drugs and I'd relapse on that while I was still drinking alcohol, man, that was nearly the end of me on multiple occasions. And well, I'll just say before that, I mean, I don't consider weed bad, right? But if you want to consider weed a drug, which a lot of people do, I did that for the first time when I was 20, which was like 5 years before I, got into heroin. And that was, it was when I was in community college, and I was with, he was my friend at the time, but we became an item, if you will. That didn't go so well. But, I smoked weed for the first time in a log cabin on a snowy mountain, which was fun, a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't really. If you're asking me like, when's the first time I ever did hard drugs? That was when I did heroin, and that was like early 2017, I think. It's crazy how that time just goes by in a blur, you know? So much wasted time. So much precious wasted time. Yep, it's a brain trick. Yeah, alcohol and heroin together can absolutely kill you. That's very dangerous. That shit's the devil. Feels like heaven, but steals everything. Precisely. Feels like heaven at first. There's a honeymoon phase, but it doesn't feel that much like heaven down the road. At a certain point, it stops being fun anymore, and it all just becomes survival. It becomes trying not to get sick. And yeah, the dope sickness feels like death. It doesn't kill you. Heroin withdrawals never killed anyone unless they do it themselves, unless they take a weapon and off themselves, that happens. But the heroin withdrawal itself, that doesn't kill people. It feels like it. That's why you want to make sure you don't have any firearms around you while you're going through that, because that's dangerous as hell. And I had a friend who went to prison while they were going through heroin withdrawal, so they had no Suboxone, nothing to help with the cravings, nothing to help with the fucking pain, and they were smashing their head against this concrete wall in order to feel some source of localized pain, because that muscle cramping and bone deep pain, the thrashing, the sweating constantly through all your sheets, well into the mattress till it soaks down to the board and starts to smell bad. It's really not a pretty thing, but it's worth it. You have to get through it. Otherwise, you're just gonna stay on that stuff. And I mean, at some point, like, you're gonna run out of dealers, they're gonna be gone at some point. I don't know. I guess some people don't have a hard time with that, but there will always be a time when you have to go through that dope sickness one way or another. And it's not a way to live. It's terrible. Makes it so that completely occupies your time, completely depletes your bank account, completely fucks your relationships up. It's not worth it. Withdrawals are terrifying and dangerous. Yeah, especially alcohol withdrawal. That can actually kill you. Even when you're a user, just running low gives you anxiety. Precisely. Because the approximate time you're going to run out, and the approximate time that it's going to take to get sick. It's like that impending doom. It's like that one scene from Trainspotting where he's laying in the bed and he's like, oh, I can feel it coming. It's inevitable. It's waiting for me, Except that we don't usually hallucinate and see babies crawling on our ceilings. The worst part of heroin withdrawal is that nothing seems to relieve it. What you used to like no longer feels good. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, with time and patience and getting over that one hurdle, it gets better and better. You can enjoy things the way you would before. It absolutely is possible, but it takes time and it takes, you know, getting back into doing those things you love, even if you have to practice them, even if you have to, you know, maybe go outside and take a walk, whether you feel like it or not. Meditating really helps. You know, talk to people who've been through it and who can give you good advice. And it really helps to know like the approximate time that it's going to be over. Knowing that it's going to be over really helps. Knowing that like you're you're nearing the finish line. We're at the home stretch. Just keep going. Just keep going. You know, after day 3, the worst part of the pain is, you know, over. It's the worst day 2 and day 3, and then it begins to sort of subside a bit. But you're gonna have to deal with boredom and cravings for like, you know, you're gonna feel as weak as a kitten by the end of that week, and then by the time it's a month, you're gonna feel bored. You're gonna feel cravings. You're gonna feel anxious. You're gonna have to have some tools at hand in order to be able to cope with that, such as having a counselor, outpatient, meditation, uh, have a meal plan so that you get all your nutrition, drink plenty of water, exercise, play video games, smoke weed to prevent the drug dreams if you have to. There are so many different ways. You know, having a dog really helped me. Shando really helped me. He still helps me out. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Chris Max. Praying for you, and you have a wonderful evening. You too, Joel. Thank you. What's up, party PayPal? Hi, hi. Hey, hey, hey. Dear beautiful lady, please tell me what are those boxes behind you? Boxes? Oh, you mean up on the wall? Those are dolls. I have Monster High dolls. I'm gonna see if any of them become valuable someday, so I'll sell them. I don't know, maybe they'll have some nostalgic worth to them. Yep. Klonopin is addictive pills. Yeah, I've never taken that. Hi, hello from Ukraine. Hi, Poma. Enjoy the live stream and keep it positive and friendly. Thank you, Chris Max. Some people use kratom to relieve heroin withdrawal. Yeah, I had a friend who gave me a lot of her kratom when I was going through withdrawal. It was the second attempt ever at getting clean. And I did relapse because my best friend passed away in 2021. But before that, I had been clean for about a month. And my friend she was a heroin addict at one point, and she got clean. She had been clean for like years and years and years. And she told me that this stuff was like a lifesaver for her, and she'd bring me that stuff. But you can't be on it when you're on Suboxone. That's a thing, you know. I happen to have some, but I don't touch it because you can get serotonin syndrome if you do kratom and Suboxone at the same time, and you're not gonna feel good. Serotonin syndrome is terrible, a terrible feeling. But yeah, the doctors push some amount of shit, and kratom ain't much better than what the doctors push. It's another problem. Yeah, I've heard some people really do have problems with that stuff. Gotta be careful. You're also your tolerance on that stuff can go up really, really fast. You know, you go from maybe needing a teaspoon of it to needing like 5 teaspoons in order to feel anything. You know, it's crazy, and it's very expensive too. I made a new older friend and used H from 89 to 00 or 100. Quit then and clean for 26 years. Well, that's good, man. Yeah, that's not a good. Sheesh. So what, did he start doing heroin because he's like in pain due to being old and thought that would help? Is he thinking, well, I'm gonna die soon anyway. Might as well get a big rush go out with a bang, if you will. Like, what the fuck? Well, I'm from me to 2000. Wow. They just outlawed it and people are going back to H. Jeez. Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. But I think that if they find a person with like a needle on them, that person shouldn't go to prison. But I like it when the cops interview or interrogate the person gently, diplomatically, in order to gain access to information regarding the dealer's whereabouts. You know? It's good to target the dealers and the people giving people drugs. But often, when you send someone who's struggling with addiction to prison, it makes it worse. We shouldn't be filling up our prisons with, like, people who had a needle on them, or weed especially, you know? But getting those dealers sent to prison, I have no problem with that. I don't like being a rat, but it is what it is, you know. It's that, or else someone else is gonna get hurt. Someone else might relapse, and someone else might OD because of that person. So, users aren't the problem. Exactly. Not only that, but anyone can become an addict. Anyone can fall victim to that, you know. Of course, it's never a premeditated choice, but we did make a foolish decision in the moment. You know, we are accountable to a degree for our decisions and how we end up. But the people who sell the drugs, they need to face justice for that, because some of these guys are selling to literal kids, man. You know, money is all they care about. They could care less if you OD and die, you know. Might seem like they care about you. Might seem like they're your friend. But they don't care if you OD and die. All they care about is getting your money. I think most people who do heroin don't know exactly where it's going to lead. Precisely. Especially when they're young and naive, you know. And it starts out relatively gentle, you know, not that, like, you start out doing one hit, like $20 per week, and you think that's not bad. I can just do this on my weekends. And then it's like every other day, then, you know, every day, and then twice a day. And then it gets to the point where you can't even, you know, get that high you used to feel. You're going to be chasing it all the time, even if it means looking for the drugs that have a reputation for killing people. You know, it's like, oh, that stuff's going to be potent. That's actually going to make me feel something. You know, that's a miserable way to live. Tell me how to get off Suboxone. Consult your doctor, dude, and wean down from it bit by bit. That's what I'm doing. Wean down from it. Maybe every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, cut a quarter off of that. Cut a quarter of it off. Or maybe if you need to go slower, cut it by an eighth per 2 weeks. I think I see before in summer, but where I don't know. Huh. You could be an actor. Well, thank you. Don't think I'd want anything to do with Hollywood now, but they're really creepy. I agree. Daz has obviously never struggled with addiction. Daz. I missed what Daz said. Daz. People who use drugs have a choice whether to use them or not. No one puts it in their arm. Well, it isn't that simple, man. There's accountability on both sides, but it's not that simple. Especially when you really don't know much better. For instance, I didn't know the different modes of administration. I didn't know that chasing the dragon was the same thing as like heroin. I didn't know it was. I thought it was just. I thought heroin was just like the spoon, what they showed you in Breaking Bad, right? I and I was really struggling with social anxiety. My grandma just died. Before that, uh, I was in a very abusive relationship with my ex when he uh, beat me and choked me and cheated on me, and I was like not the same for a whole year and a half after that. After that, it was like the whole chemistry of my brain switched. It was just like it almost felt like, and I know like maybe it was almost like a mild form of shell shock, because very, very, very mild. I know that's a condition which I would reserve only for veterans who've been through war, right? I'm not saying it was like that, but it felt like I was in a state of it almost felt like I was underwater, where sounds around me, they were either too loud or too muffled. And when I would go out and just go to a coffee shop and try to just be normal, and when I would talk to people, it felt like I was like on the other side of some window, like watching the world around me, and I wasn't even connected to it. It felt, uh, I just like I wanted to hide in a hole. I felt like I wasn't normal anymore. For like a year and a half, it felt like disassociation. Disassociation, that's a good term. But that fucked me up for a little while. And then I lived alone for a year, and then I went to go live with my grandma for 4 months, and I took care of her, and she passed away, and she was my hero. And then after that, went to go live with my sister and roommates, and the roommates were really fucking creepy, man. First thing, and it was like a couple, a dude and a girl, and they were like a boyfriend, girlfriend. And the dude comes up to me. First thing he says to me is, "You might need more sex." This was right after my grandma died. Like, fuck you. You don't know anything about my life. I never told you about my life. Like, what the hell? And he also spanks the monkey right in front of me. He was downstairs first thing in the morning. I'm like living in the loft. This is in the morning where people are walking around doing their thing. And I'm the only one, like he's like the first one getting up, awake, goes to his computer and just like starts doing that thing right in front of me. I mean, that was really not a huge deal, but just everything combined, everything compounding. It's like you can't get a fucking break. And then I had to, they went their separate ways, and so I had to move out. And then I went into student housing, and I invited people into I made some of the wrong friends. I didn't know they did drugs, and I invited them into my student apartment, and I had social anxiety. I was really like, everything was just sort of coming to a toll. Like I was about to I was almost having a nervous breakdown, and I said, I have social anxiety, and they said, here, this is gonna help. They're sitting on my toilet with some foil and something on that and a straw, and I'm like, sure, I'll try that. Curiosity can kill the cat. I was curious. I was done. I was, I was lonely. It was almost like I didn't want to live anymore at that point. It was either that or death. It's like, oh, I just don't want to feel anymore. Great. I didn't know it was heroin per se, but I thought, I'll try experimenting to see if this makes me feel better, I guess. There wasn't that much thought in it. It was just like, I need to escape. Whatever this is, I need, I didn't even know, like, the differences between, like, speed and crack and all this. Like, again, I was homeschooled. I was very naive, and I needed to escape. Curiosity and grief and anxiety killed the cat in my case. That doesn't mean that I'm not accountable. That doesn't mean that I didn't make a foolish choice. But people need to have more compassion for addicts, because, again, anyone can fall into that situation. Anyone can become an addict. It depends on your circumstances, how weak you're feeling at the moment, what you're going through, and just whether you care enough to, like, I didn't care at the time. I just didn't care. I I, I was done. I didn't want, I was just done. It was one bad thing after another. And this was after someone told me, "Don't worry, things will get better. Life is like a pendulum where it goes from one end to an extreme to another and reverts to the middle. So, Anne, good times are coming. Just you wait. Don't worry." But good times never came. It was just one bad thing after another. One loss after another. One source of grief after another. And I was fucking done. I didn't think I could get through college, but I did. You know? But yeah, it's not a premeditated decision. It was a stupid choice in the moment. But again, we're not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. And shaming addicts, especially you shame addicts who've been clean for a while and who are improving their lives. Like, what's the point in shaming someone who's 3.5 years clean and who is striving to better themselves and who is always trying to inspire other people? What's the point in that? Other than to make yourselves feel a little better about yourselves, to avoid looking in the mirror, avoid looking, a lot of people like to project. A lot of people like to avoid looking in the mirror and instead like to, criticize and shame people who've made mistakes in their lives. None of us are without sin. None of us are without mistakes. I'm sure that the people saying, like, calling you a junkie or whatever, or saying that you were stupid for ever making that decision in the first place, they've got their own issues. They've made mistakes. Who knows what they've got going on. Could be worse in that they deliberately hurt other people. I hurt myself. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, but there is collateral damage involved that you do not foresee when you decide to do something like that. There's really little analysis. You just go into it thinking that it's not gonna get as bad as it's gonna get. It starts out, like, maybe I'll just try it. Maybe I'll just experiment this one time. And then it becomes like, and then you start to remember how good that made you feel. And, and like maybe even a month later, and you're like, you come to your friend and you say, "Hey, can I have some more of that stuff?" And then that really escalates and becomes, every other week, every other day, every multiple times a day. And it gets so out of hand, it's like, you just don't see that coming. You don't. Some people might, because, and I mean, that's too bad that they let themselves, if someone knows what's at store of something like that, which I didn't, and I think a lot of people don't. They don't know, like, the full scale of how that drug's gonna damage you and your relationships. Some people think they can keep it a secret, but eventually you just can't. People are gonna notice. You don't mean to drag other people down with you. A lot of people are just, they don't realize how much hurt in themselves is gonna hurt the ones that love them. I thank God for all my suffering. My suffering was a gift of God, a gift to humble me and to bring me to Christ and repentance. Sometimes I wonder if that had to happen to me as well for me to get to here. Because I was agnostic for a long time. I was raised Catholic, became agnostic for like 10 years, including, subsequently I was liberal as well. And, which I don't know if that really has much to do with it. Maybe it does. But, no, I just didn't want to lose friends. And I was worried I'd lose my job too if I, like, started seeing things from the conservative side even. Even if I said, maybe they have a point, I was worried people would hate me, which they would have, and they did. As soon as I became honest and put my integrity at the forefront, rather than being people's bitch and just saying whatever I can to please them. I started being honest, and yeah, I mean, my faith in God came back when I went through the cure, and it's based on multiple experiences I've had, and multiple coincidences, which are hard to ignore, and just this, it's hard to explain. Like, most people just cannot really delineate why they have faith, you know. But I think there's a reason for why, when I was 17 and knew absolutely nothing about drugs, I chose St. Maximilian Kolbe as my patron saint. And I found out like a decade later, when I was an addict, 27, I found out that he's the patron saint of drug addicts and eating disorders. Go figure. You look like you're from the 50s. Well, thank you. I'm Catholic. I'm not Orthodox, no. But yeah, I mean, Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox are the two religions closest to Catholicism. The only difference is that they don't believe the Pope is the head of the church, but they do believe that the Holy Trinity is God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. You know, they just, everything, you know, except for the Pope. And I don't know if I care much for the Pope. Nor did I care much for the last one. Nor the one before that. God, the Pope before didn't last very long. Who was like Pope Benedict? He was like, I don't know, he's kind of weird. I like Pope John Paul II. Whoopsie. Yeah, he almost looked like Dracula, that one Pope. And he was really, I thought he was almost, I mean, I know the Pope's usually pretty old, but I thought he was just a little too old. Where am I from? I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I thought that, like, the difference between Orthodox and unorthodox was just, like, traditionalism, maybe? That, like, Orthodox is more traditional? Let me look that up just to be sure. I'm not certain. Difference between Orthodox and unorthodox. Oops. Orthodox refers to widely accepted, traditional, yeah, I got it right. Orthodox refers to widely accepted, traditional, and established beliefs or practices, precisely. In contrast, unorthodox describes methods or views that deviate from these norms. While orthodox adheres strictly to established routines, unorthodox approaches are innovative, alternative, or break traditional rules to solve problems. I'd say I'm like a mixture of both, honestly. I'm a mixture of both. I like the Latin masses, right? I'm like a combination of Orthodox and unorthodox Catholic. For instance, yeah, I like the Latin masses. I don't like it when the people, the congregation, is allowed to serve the Eucharist in their hands to people. I don't like that. I don't think that women should be priests. Sorry. That doesn't mean that I, like, you know. But I don't think that you necessarily have to go to church every single Sunday in order to have a relationship with God, you know? You can maybe watch it on a live stream, or, you know. Also, I don't believe that LGBT people are going straight to hell. I do not believe that. I think that everyone has a unique relationship with God, and it's based on the content of our hearts, what He can see in our hearts. He can determine whether we're good people, and what, you know, living in His grace through our hearts, through our thoughts, words, and deeds, and all that. You know, there's so many different factors that come into play, and I don't think that we have a right to judge. And, well, I mean, we judge in different ways, but, like, we don't have a right to condemn people to hell. We don't have a right to tell whether someone is going to hell or heaven or wherever or not. Now, there's nothing wrong with me or anyone saying, like, I think my grandma went to heaven. But I've seen some Catholics, not many, I have one in mind, who go, is like, oh, I know they're going to hell. It's like, what the fuck? What do you think you're God or something? You know? I don't think people can play God. They might try, and people do, man. Yep. No, conservatives don't do that, man. And you're absolutely projecting. This person says, beg to differ. I'm a Christian and wouldn't characterize any conservatives of today as following biblical teachings. They're more like the 90s liberals now. Anywho, they practice the devil's beliefs and inflict hatred and death. And that's not true at all, man. You guys are the ones who killed Charlie Kirk. You guys are the ones, like trying to provoke ICE so that, like that guy who tried to run this officer over, and the officer had no choice, but it was his life or his, This guy was going to run him over. And this would happen with anybody trying to run over a cop or anyone who's meant to protect and serve the public. Like, this guy has a gun for a reason, to protect himself from people like this. And then they made it out to be, all of a sudden you have this whole big crowd of protesters. I think it's organized. I don't think that it's just a coincidence that all these people gather up all of a sudden after this event. I think that this guy who tried to run over the agent, I think that he's a little pawn that they placed there as a martyr to push their cause and make ICE look bad. No, you guys are the ones causing the fucking violence. You guys, there are people shooting up Catholic children. I'm not saying that, like, some conservatives don't do bad things, but that doesn't make all conservatives bad. And I never said that all Democrats are bad. Some Democrats are, well-meaning, and I'd argue most, just want to go about their lives like normal people, and they have good intentions. But, the media, 99% of it is owned by the left. They spew lies and hate all the time. And you have, like, you just, man, it doesn't take much. I know that when you Google things, like, everything is owned by the left, and they really try to make it hard to find the truth. They do. In fact, they made it at one point, they made it so you couldn't even type, like, Trump into the search engine and have it just show up for you. Like, I'd put in president in, like, Facebook, like, try to write a comment for president, and I'd put in T. They wouldn't finish it for me. I put in president, it would show me options for Biden and Obama for the search engine, but there was no Trump. TRU, still no Trump. They're trying to avoid the truth as much as possible. But all the violence I am seeing, most of it has been very, very prevalent on the left. You guys dance on Charlie Kirk's grave. You dance on, like, if an ICE agent or any conservative for that matter gets murdered, you dance on their graves. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The projection is real, man. Absolute hog shit. The Pope is trying to push woke politics that damage our society. That's why. And he's on the Trump derangement syndrome train. And he should be thinking about the church. He should be thinking about, religious duties, not what's going on, like not immigration in America. He doesn't care about people dropping their gangs onto us and their criminals onto us, and women getting G-raped, which is happening a lot in Europe. They don't care about that. They don't care at all about that. Liberals don't, I mean, people on the left, most people, or the far left at least, they don't care about that. They only care about Epstein as far as they can implicate Trump. Otherwise, they'd care about the women who are being G-raped by illegal immigrants. They don't care about that. They only care about the Epstein files as far as they can implicate Trump. That's all they care about. That's all they stand on. That and identity politics and controlling language. They're the real tyrants. By the way, did anyone watch that speech by Marco Rubio? I'll bet I could show you guys that. It is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Let me see. I'll see if I can show you guys. Lovely time here, Tangent. Gotta head out though. Okay, Ganchi, you take care. Hi, my dear. Just came in here on my recovery journey. You're my safe place to come, and because of you, I don't feel alone. Well, thank you. All that glitters, man. That means a lot. I'm very glad. That keeps this channel going, man. Thank you. Haters need to be ignored so that they starve and fade out. Yep. Yep, here we are, Trump. Oh, brother. Can you provide any evidence, man? Can you, like, give me any examples of how he's robbing us blind? Because most of the time, you guys just spew shit and you're not able to back it up. Just saying. I am disappointed with how the Epstein files are being handled, though. It's the one thing I ever agreed with Nick Fuentes on. That I've heard, at least. There, you know, I don't agree with a lot of what Nick Fuentes says. You know, some of the things he says are just plain, yuck. But I do agree with him on the Epstein files. If Trump were to just, you know, like fire the people associated with those files, you know, like Nick Fuentes says, feed them to the wolves. Don't go down with the ship with them, you know. And I agree with that. His approval rating would, you know, would improve overnight if he were to just release the files without all those redactions. You know? I know that the victims aren't the only thing they're protecting. There's like national security, CIA, and all this other shit. But knowing that our government is run by PDFs is very disconcerting. But I don't, yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no proof that Trump went to that island or that he was involved in any of that, just so you know. In fact, there's more proof that he tried to expose them before anyone was really talking about Epstein, and that they tried to blackmail him. You know, he knew a lot of rich people and socialites, and, you know, and had a lot of connections, and used a lot of, he'd blackmail a lot of these people. Doesn't mean that they're implicated in any of the crimes that were mentioned on that island, or that happened on that island. But it does look bad when you really try to avoid, you know, releasing the files after you promised to. I don't know, like, I feel like there are a lot of things in his way. There are a lot of people in his way preventing him from doing that. The president doesn't have as much power as people think, you know. Yeah, a lot of people are in the files, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're guilty of a crime. There are a lot of people in those files. Not all of them are guilty. Epstein had a lot of powerful connections. And a lot, you know, he name dropped people constantly, just showing off all the rich, powerful people he knew. That does not mean that Trump is implicated in those crimes. That does not mean he went to the island. There's no proof of it whatsoever. But that's all Democrats care about. All they care about is implicating Trump in these files. They do not give a flying fuck about the victims. Not one little bit. Yeah, he kicked Jeffrey out of Mar-a-Lago. Exactly. And he tried to expose him. And the reason why he's mentioned in the files is because they tried to blackmail him. Not only that, I didn't know this before, but Trump wasn't allowed to join the Bohemian Grove Club. Wonder why? Probably because they knew that Trump could expose them. If you think the last administration sat on information that could put him in jail and they didn't use it, they tried to destroy him. Stop kidding yourself. People didn't let him release that shit. Exactly. Precisely. People didn't let him release that shit. Precisely. That's so obvious. You know, if they had anything on Trump in there in those files, the Biden administration would have released it a long time ago. This has been going back like 4 presidencies. And Trump has been the whistleblower more often than not. And they really did try to blackmail him. They tried to get rid of him. Hollywood used to love Trump. You know, they used to love Trump. Wasn't he in like Home Alone 2? He had a little cameo in Home Alone 2. He'd be on like The View, and Whoopi Goldberg would be all, and Joy Behar would be all, you know, friendly and hunky-dory and, you know, tickled pink around him. You know, all of a sudden they hate him when he becomes president. I wonder why. Could it be they're all afraid of being exposed? Like the way Ricky Gervais exposed a lot of them? Yeah, you don't have to like Trump. There are certain things about him I don't care for either. But I see him as like a means to a better end. I want Marco Rubio to get elected. Do you know why the Trumps are not allowed to run any charity in New York? Wonder why. I don't know, why don't they let Melania Trump be on the cover of Vogue, but they've let Michelle Obama be on that cover like more than any other first lady? I wonder why. Well, you know, a lot of these, like Vogue or wherever, I don't know what they're involved with, but a lot of these really super powerful people in charge of, like, you know, CEOs and people in charge of Hollywood and all that, they have a lot of skeletons in their closet, and they do not want to get exposed. You know, the left, they weren't going crazy about, like, you know, it's like they could care less about, like, Clive Owens and what he did. Like, they could care less about Harvey Weinstein. They could care less about women's safety, you know? All they care about is pushing their agenda. That's all they care about. Marco for president. Precisely. Marco for the next president. I think he's doing a better job than JD Vance. I agree. And he has more emotional appeal too. So, I mean, he has something that Trump doesn't, and that has such emotional eloquence. He has emotional intelligence. And I think that he can actually reach people's hearts better than Trump can, you know? And he's on point about everything. I really, really like him. Trump isn't mentioned in the files more than Epstein, you liar. Yuck. I don't like liars. Bye-bye. No, they're not. Marco Rubio. I'm talking about Marco Rubio. We need someone like Marco Rubio. And we can't deny that both political parties have changed significantly. These days, conservatives or Republicans are more like 90s Democrats are. And that's basically what Trump is. He's like a 90s Democrat. Whereas the liberals, they don't stand on class warfare and class issues anymore. Now we do, you know? Like Nick Shirley. I'm a huge Nick Shirley fan, man. That's where I get a lot of my news, Nick Shirley. I fucking love Nick Shirley. And, but yeah, the left doesn't stand on that anymore. All they stand on is identity politics, um, controlling language, and anything they can do to bring Trump down. That's all they care about anymore. And man, oh man, oh man, some of these people are so racist. So racist. And they're the ones who call us racist. They're actually the racists, man. They're actually big time racists. There's this clip I saw of this woman on a train in New York being interviewed. She looked like she was maybe Indian or Pakistani. But she's just like going off saying that like white people shouldn't be allowed to sit outside on their stoops. And that only black people can do that. Which in and of itself is super racist against black people, saying, okay, so like, are you saying that black people belong on the stoop? Like, what the fuck are you even saying? They don't realize how racist they sound. Like, you know, they want segregation. Unbelievable. They really do want, yeah, I'm listening to myself, and I'm right. A lot of these Democrats want segregation again. Absolutely. 100%. 110%. Let's see. Marco Rubio's speech. How long is this? Looking for it. Huh. Yeah, let's see. Where can I find it? Looking for just a 10 or 6 minute video. Let me see. Let's see. What is he? I'll turn that down. Hi. I'd rather have Trump than Biden. Yeah. Biden made our country way more dangerous. You know, just because you're a good person doesn't mean you can come into our country illegally. You're still breaking the law. Just fill out those papers, do all that difficult pain in the ass shit, and come back the right way. And also, there are these people trying to make our country into their country. You know, they don't like America. They hate America, and they want to change it. Absolutely. You know, just like, you know, just because you're a good person doesn't mean you can drive drunk just because you need to get home. You know, you're endangering everybody else around. You're going to make everyone else think they can drive drunk. Just like you're going to make everyone think that they can just come into our country and do whatever they want. And you know, shit on us anytime they want. Thank you very much. Thank you, Astro. Hello, hope your day's great. God bless. Thank you. You know, just because you're a good person doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, because that's just going to make way for other people, bad people, to come in, and bad people to break the laws and you know, bring violence into our country. We don't need that. I know the left like to pretend they care about women's safety, but they certainly don't. Thank you, Chris Max. Hello, I'm not rambling. I'm just stating facts, dude. Can you offer anything other than insults? Because that's all you guys can ever offer, most of you. I have yet to meet a Democrat who doesn't just spew insults when I tell it like it is. Sickening. What is this? Let me see. One sec. It says, okay. This is a distinctive and unique. Okay. Let me see. The resurgence of. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'd show you. This is like the perfect, like, video, kind of like, you know, consolidated, but it's Asmongold, and I'm afraid I might get copyrighted, so just want to show you this news here. Let's see. The resurgence of political terrorism. Yeah, we're trying to stop Iran from having nuclear weapons because they're all about threatening America. And they're, you know, I mean, I'd like to have nothing to do with them. You know, I'd love to have absolutely nothing to do with them. You know, I think we should just, if they, you know, we can't negotiate with them, let them fester in their own shit then, if that's what they choose. But I feel bad for the people there who never chose to live like that, you know, who are forced to live like that. Women who are treated like cattle since the 70s. Before that, things were normal for them. Well, but a lot of leftists think that they're better off than we are and that women are treated better. Imagine that. They also think that gay people would be treated well there. Actually, no, not at all. You had this, like, this cruise boat, this gay cruise, come up to one of these countries, and they were lucky that they were just turned away, you know, told to go away. You know, they're very lucky that that something worse didn't happen. For some reason, it's okay to be trans there, though, because they see that as fixing the gay. Imagine that. Imagine that. All they care about is pushing their political dogma onto us. That's all they care about. All they care about is anything that can implicate Trump. That's the only thing they care about. Let's watch this, guys. This is ABC News. ABC News? Wait, what is it? ABC 7 News? Okay. Well, this is just Marco Rubio speaking.
Thank you all for joining us here today. I'm very honored that this distinguished group of people have traveled from around the world to be a part of this important conversation. We're grateful to you. I also want to thank members of the President's team and cabinet that are here today. Our FBI Director, Kash Patel, is here with us. Thank you. Our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, has joined us as well. You'll hear shortly from Stephen Miller, the President's Deputy Chief of Staff and one of his top advisors on Homeland Security issues as well. And of course, our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is here. But again, I want to thank all of you that are here today. I want to thank the whole team here at the State Department as well for putting this together. It truly is an unprecedented. All political and all ideological divisions of any kind is the protection of its people, of its country, of the state.
Just want to get past the introduction.
A moment, I should say, in our history. So let me spend an issue on Homeland Security issues as well. And of course, our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is here. But again, I want to thank all of you that are here today. I want to thank the whole team here at the State Department as well for putting this together. It truly is an unprecedented event on an unprecedented issue, moment, I should say, in our history. So let me start by saying that the most essential duty of the state, the first responsibility, frankly, of any government of any kind.
Yeah, that'd be good if they could liberate North Korea.
It's the protection of its country, This is a sacred obligation that should transcend all political and all ideological divisions. It is why, for example, we have militaries. It's why we have intelligence agencies. It's why counterterrorism bureaus exist, why police forces exist. Keeping our people safe is the reason why every country represented here has all of these things. We are all very well acquainted, as of now, of course by now, with what has been described as traditional terrorist threats. For 25 years, the term counterterrorism, at least in the West, has meant first and foremost the fight against radical Islamist extremism. And there's a very
I'll go to bed when I
for
feel
that.
like it.
On the 11th of
It's
September,
9:30,
in
buddy.
the year of 2001,
Rubio's not a traitor. Why are you saying that? You see, you guys just make all these dumb claims and you don't have anything to back it up. Nothing. You don't give me anything.
aboard trains in Madrid in 2004.
I'm not turning
52
it
more
off.
aboard London buses. And the
No, I know
underground
you're
the following
triggered.
year.
I know you don't
The
like,
entire
you know, you're
architecture
afraid that
of Western
he's going to drop
counterterrorism
some
was
truth
rebuilt
bombs in your
from the
face.
studs around the singular traumatic
They
event
can't handle the truth,
that
man.
made sense
These
at
guys
the
just
time.
can't handle the
Our
truth.
job was to keep our people safe, and the realm of terrorism, the specter of global jihad, was the
He
premier
is
threat
moron
to their safety.
junkie. Wow.
And so we went to work.
Wow, you
And we
see?
assembled
All they
a
can do
global
is throw
coalition,
insults.
working with
That's all
many
they can
of the
do.
friends that are represented here in this room today. And we destroyed the ISIS caliphate. We killed al-Baghdadi and al-Zawahiri and bin Laden. And we built intelligence and law enforcement systems capable of anticipating
Oopsie.
and stopping attacks before the public even hears about them. Every country
Well, how about
represented
black
here today
or
has
white?
disrupted
Looks
a
better.
terrorist threat at some point
Or no,
emanating
red or white.
from this source. Jihadist attacks and plots in the United States are down by
I
two-thirds
like the white.
since ISIS's peak. The number of people killed by jihadist terrorism in Europe dropped by roughly 97% from the year 2015 to the year 2024. In other words, to a very great extent, our counterterrorism strategy has worked. The threat has not disappeared, of course. It will continue to exist, particularly so long as we tolerate immigration systems that imports these threats
Think
directly
of how-
into our respective homelands.
Think of how cruel it is that a brilliant mind like Rubio had to flee from his own land. He is a true American, is American spirit, but also an honorable son of Cuba. Precisely. Precisely, my friend.
But this threat has been severely diminished. The world looks very different today because of it. For far too long, however, our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot. A blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left. Even
You
today,
right
the
back,
very
guys. I'll be
idea
right back.
that
I'm
far
gonna
left
check on
terrorism
my
could be a
voice.
serious
One sec.
threat is treated as a right-wing fever dream, or worse, as a dangerous fascist conspiracy. It's treated this way by many in the press, by many in academia and our universities, and by many of our legacy institutions. You will no doubt see the dogma rear its head in the coverage of this very conference. In spite of the clear and the undeniable reality, in spite of the objective numbers and statistics, in spite of the fact that in this room today, there are representatives from across the political spectrum, we will hear this kind of organized violence and terror will be dismissed. It will be dismissed as a partisan fiction. A whole industry grew up in our countries around the study of extremism. We have think tanks, fellowships, journals, and consultancies with the unspoken understanding among them that the only kind of political violence that was a true threat to our system, that only one kind of political violence was a true threat to the system. A bomb planted by a neo-Nazi group was a nefarious and murderous act of evil. It is. But a bomb planted by a Marxist revolutionary, well, that's just merely a tragic excess of idealism. Perhaps its means were misplaced or overzealous, but its ends were virtuous and just. That's the implication of how they treat it. For years, this extraordinary ideological prejudice was embedded in the way we talked about political violence and extremism. It was repeated again and again until it was accepted as the neutral and objective baseline. So entrenched in the mainstream conventional wisdom that it came to be regarded.
If we're up to the
as
other
an
party,
apolitical
Iran would
fact.
have nuclear weapons
It
just
is
to
the
oppose
reason
Trump.
why
Precisely.
here in my country,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
many
And if
people
Trump
in
tried to
positions
save a
of
drowning
power
baby, they'd
have repeatedly
probably be
dismissed
against
acts
that
of
too.
violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of
In fact, do you notice that it's weird? Trump made it so that abusing animals has more, like a bigger punishment, greater punishment. You get, people will be prosecuted a lot more severely for animal abuse. Do you notice that you're finding more and more people mistreating their animals lately? Isn't that weird? Like people even creating content surrounding their like mistreatment of animals. Just a coincidence. I don't know if it's related. But it could be a way for them to go against Trump hurting their animals because Trump made it so that, that's considered a bigger crime. Possibly.
political expression so long as they served a left-wing cause. It is why during those so-called George Floyd riots in the summer of 2020, as criminals and extremists burned and looted their way through America's great cities and nearly brought the country to its knees.
They burned and looted a lot of black businesses too, black-owned businesses.
City governments...
And all those funds went to the rich and their mansions, the higher-ups, the rich running that organization. It went to their mansions. It didn't go to helping disadvantaged people one bit.
All across the country simply refused to prosecute the people conducting these acts of violence and terror. It is the reason for the now infamous image, maybe you all recall this, of a news anchor from a very prominent agency.
Make baddies great again.
Standing in a neighborhood, consumed in flames. Meanwhile, the chyron on the bottom read that the protests were mostly peaceful.
Shut up.
This was something worse than a double standard. Left-wing violence was not just excused. It was treated as sacrosanct, a protected class unto itself. That era has to end. The coalition in this room today includes political leaders and experts and law enforcement officials from more than 60 countries across the world. You have come here from a wide range of governments, parties, and political persuasions. Some of your governments and ours disagree publicly. Sometimes we disagree sharply about trade, about energy, about immigration. You did not come here today because you have been persuaded on every single aspect of the American view of the world. You came here. You are here because 2 weeks ago, a 72-year-old woman was burned on over 80% of her body in her own home in Greece, and she died, executed by a firebomb.
You see my pulse in my neck?
Dared to
I've been
stand for
told that
office.
people can see
You
how
are here
strong my
today
neck
because
is when I
for 5 days this
exercise.
winter, the lights went out in Berlin. The longest blackout in the city since the Second World War, sparked by an attack that left tens of thousands of households without power in the freezing cold and left an 83-year-old woman dead. You are here and
Do
you
they
came
care about that? No.
because a month after that Berlin blackout, a French 23-year-old succumbed to traumatic brain injuries, beaten to death on the streets of Lyon by a group of far-left militant thugs. You are here because your political leaders are being attacked and stabbed and shot in your streets, because your businesses have been bombed, because your railways have been sabotaged, because your police officers have been beaten and burned. You are here because this is real, and it is getting worse, and it can no longer be denied, and it can no longer be ignored, because it is time to crush this evil.
This was
forever.
3 days ago, by the way.
The simple fact is, none of this that I've just described is new. Far-left political terrorism is not a recent-day modern novelty. It is not a fiction manufactured by conservative politicians. For most of the modern era, it was in fact the dominant form of political violence. Every one of our friends here from the nations of the Western Hemisphere remember the decades of kidnappings and bombings and assassinations and executions, the violent terror of the Tupamaros, of the Monteseros, of the FARC, of the ELN. You remember the inhuman savagery of Peru's Shining Path, The Maoist fanatics who massacred the peasant villages of Peru, hacking pregnant women and newborn infants to death with axes and machetes. You remember the tens of thousands of Marxist guerrillas trained to kill in Castro's terrorist camps. All of you here from Europe remember. You remember the machine gun massacres of Italy's Red Brigades, which held the five...
And the people who've had to really experience the dreadfulness of communism firsthand, people who've had to live through that, they try to warn us. They tell us we do not want to go, we moved to America so we don't have to live like that, only to realize that a certain political party, who we all know what I'm talking about, they're all trying to make us communism, Marxist. When I was in college, they tried to shove Marxism down everyone's throats, and communism and all that, starting with changing language and how we speak and what we're allowed to say.
Time Prime Minister captive for 55 days before subjecting him to a revolutionary so-called people's trial and executing him in 1978. You remember the Red Army faction's nearly 3-decade campaign of bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations in Germany, murdering dozens and injuring hundreds more. You remember the 17 November organization in Greece, the Marxist extremists that terrorized Athens for more than a quarter century, including, by the way, shooting my country's CIA station chief dead outside of his home, in front of his wife, as they were returning home from a Christmas party. And here in America, we remember. We remember the same reign of deadly terror, justified by the same slogans, motivated by the same wicked ideas. We remember the Weather Underground, which bombed the Pentagon, which bombed the State Department, and bombed the Capitol. We remember the Black Liberation Army, which staged armed robberies and executed police officers at point-blank range. We remember the Symbionese Liberation Army, which shot a public school superintendent to death with cyanide-packed hollow point bullets. In one 18-month period, between 1971 and 1972, the FBI counted some 2,500 bombings on American soil, a rate of nearly 5 a day. The
God bless
overwhelming
America
share
indeed.
of that violence came from left-wing extremists. Between 1970 and 1980, 93% of terrorist attacks in the West came from the far extremist left. These are numbers that would shock most Americans today because we've been taught to believe that this kind of, the overwhelming share of that violence came from left-wing extremists. Between 1970 and 1980, 93% of terrorist attacks in the West came from the far extremist left.
Wow.
These are numbers that would shock most Americans today because we've been taught to believe that this kind of political violence, it simply doesn't exist, or it's being exaggerated.
Yeah,
But
domestic terrorism is a real threat, man.
And our nations bear the
We should be
scars
focusing on that.
And today we face a new wave of this old evil.
Getting rid
Trial
of those
Survive has to
people.
be one of the most relaxing and comforting games of 2026. There's no pressure, and it's super easy to play. You don't need to stay online all day, and there's no endless grinding either. Just hop in whenever you feel like it. Collect.
Here in the United States, the share of left-wing
Good day.
terrorist
Hi,
attacks and
Mike.
plots has risen to levels not seen
Thanks, Randy.
in decades. In Germany, far-left violence has jumped by more than 40%
Marco Rubio has
in
my
just
vote.
the last year alone. In Greece, more than 80% of radical violence is now driven by far-left and anarchist actors.
It's all over the place. All
These
the
are not
violence is
abstract
being driven by the
statistics.
far left.
Americans have seen what those numbers mean. An all-out assault on our
Don't
immigration
let 'em-
officers.
don't listen to
sniper
their
attacks,
lies, guys.
Explosives.
It's
Armed
disgusting.
ambushes. A transgender shooter opening fire on Catholic elementary school students.
Oh,
as
I
they
just
prayed.
mentioned that, didn't
His
I?
gun marked with slogans like, "Where is your God now?" A
I didn't
healthcare
know that
executive
part.
Executed in cold blood in the streets. Multiple assassination attempts on a sitting president, and the murder of the greatest conservative activist of a generation. A man who happened to also be a husband and the father
Charlie
of 2
Kirk.
young children, shot and killed while speaking to a crowd of students. This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred
America.
for civilization itself.
Oh yeah.
It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly
This is where it
against
gets
the
good.
strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist or communist or
I'm gonna
anarchist
rewind that just a
or
minute,
Marxist,
'cause
but the
the
fundamental
dog
character
is
is always
barking
the
now.
same.
That
It is
this
a
is the
revolt
good
of
part.
the worst against the best. Far-left violence has jumped by more than 40%
Oh, wow.
in just the left.
There we go.
These are numbers that would shock most Americans today because we've been taught to believe that this kind of political violence, it simply doesn't exist or it's being exaggerated. But it does exist. And we're actually underestimating it. And our nations bear the scars to prove it. And today we face a new wave of this old evil. Here in the United States, the share of left-wing terrorist attacks and plots has risen to levels not seen in decades. In Germany, far-left violence has jumped by more than 40% in just the last year alone.
40%.
In Greece, more than 80% of radical violence is now driven by far-left and anarchist actors. These are not abstract statistics. Americans have seen what those numbers mean. An all-out assault on our immigration officers, sniper attacks, explosives, armed ambushes, a transgender shooter opening fire on Catholic elementary school students as they pray, his gun marked with slogans like, "Where is your God now?" A healthcare executive executed in cold blood in the streets. Multiple assassination attempts on a sitting president, and the murder of the greatest conservative activist of a generation. A man who happened to also be a husband and the father of 2 young children, shot and killed while speaking to a crowd of students. This is a distinctive and unique evil. It has always been driven by a hatred, above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. This is what radical leftism is. It may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalists or anti-imperialists or communists or anarchists or Marxists, but the fundamental character is always the same. It's always the same. It is a poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice, liberation, an overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built,
They're so
to
fake.
wreck what is beautiful and what is right on behalf of people who are only filled with ugliness and have nothing else to offer the world. Through violence and through
Thank you
terror,
very much, Ben.
they once again seek to impose their ugliness on all of us. The old dogma was wrong. The old dogma was wrong. None of this is driven by idealism. It is not utopian. In fact, it is the opposite. One of the criticisms you sometimes hear of communism, for example, is that it sounds good in theory, but it never works in practice.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is important.
You
The shooter who murdered my sweet little
suck!
Daniel.
That's actually not true. Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, gray, leveled of all exception, drained of all that is good and noble in the human soul. The world it envisions is a world without courage, a world without creativity or ambition, a world without heroes or glory or great
100%.
causes to strive towards, without a world without miracles, without myths, without men who rise above the rest to do incredible and extraordinary things. And the world communism envisions is a world without God. For these architects of revolutionary violence, the towering achievement of our civilization, for them, It's an unbearable humiliation, a reminder of what they cannot do, and a reminder of what they cannot be. So they choose instead to destroy. They attack pipelines, they attack railroads, they attack power grids and laboratories, the physical embodied symbols of power and invention and achievement. This is the nature of the terrorism we face today. They despise the West because the West is great. This is an international conference because we are facing we are facing a transnational threat. These are not distinct and isolated cells. They are interconnected networks. They do not recognize our borders. They do not believe, in fact, in the nation state itself. They coordinate, they communicate, they travel, they train, and they act together in the same infrastructure, sharing the same enemies, sharing the same mission. Antifa militants and their comrades travel from across Europe and to the Americas to participate in each other's attacks, to funnel propaganda and training materials and target information through shared encrypted channels, moving through underground networks of safe houses and finance, and sustain their operations through transnational funds. And they work alongside hostile foreign states that share their mission, like Iranian proxy networks, who are increasingly intimately tied to leftist militant groups around the world.
Yes, everyone without courage and any skill are the DEI appointees of this illegal, unconstitutional regime that had to cheat to get in. I agree, 100%. Mm-hmm, 100%. Anyway.
World. The Cuban regime's sprawling intelligence and ideological network helped to build
Some
the
of
far
y'all
left
getting
in our
triggered,
country
huh?
and in our hemisphere.
Wow.
And it remains inextricably linked to the far left groups and movements across and beyond the West. Today's far left terrorists can raise money in one country. They can host their communications in a second country. They can receive training in a third country. They can recruit militants in a fourth country. And then together strike a target in a fifth country.
I'm gonna try to give this a chance.
And so we have no choice but to confront this menace together. We will either cooperate across our borders, or the terrorists will continue to exploit the gaps between them. Under President Trump, for the first time, the United States is building the infrastructure, the partnership, and the strategy to defeat the scourge of far-left terror.
Strategy.
The President signed National Security Presidential Memorandum Number 7, outlining a comprehensive strategy to investigate and disrupt Antifa terror networks and their allies. Last November, the State Department designated 4 violent, far-left extremist groups as foreign terrorist organizations, and there will be more designations soon. In December, we announced Rewards for Justice offering up to $10 million for information disrupting the financing behind these groups. In May,
Wish I
we
had
convened the
information.
first counterterrorism law enforcement workshop, joining American law enforcement officials and their counterparts in our partner country nations together to map and develop strategies for dismantling these networks. The next workshop will be co-hosted with our partners in Germany. The coalition we're building together is already bearing fruit. And we are here today to build on that work. We can and we must identify and map this threat and rebuild our counterterrorism architecture to defeat it, just as we have done together before. Now we must do it together again. Through intelligence and information sharing, through coordinated law enforcement strategy, through financial targeting and disruption, we will dismantle these networks brick by brick.
Brick by brick,
is
like
time
bricks in many things, guys.
For the people of the
Remember?
civilized world to defend ourselves, to stand united against this encroaching darkness and fight for what is ours. It is easy to destroy great things. It is far more difficult to make them. The enemies of civilization are only capable of the former. They're only capable of destroying great things. All they know is destruction. But we have built great things together. We have done it time and again. We know what we must do, and now we must do it. Thank you for coming today.
100%. 100 fucking percent. Absolutely. Yes, 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 and yes. There you have it. Yep. United we stand, divided we fall. Yep. I'm learning so much from you now. Well, I'm glad, man. I'm glad. I know, right? Why do all these rude comments surface after 11:45? Well, because this. I mean, as soon as they know I'm a Trump supporter, it's an excuse for them to show they're nasty and just throw insults at people. You know? It reveals their true colors. They're revealing their true colors. That's all they're doing. You know? I see some of the nicest, just like I saw this one kid walking down the street. Saw this one video of this kid walking down the street. He's wearing a MAGA hat, and he gets ambushed by 3 big dudes and this guy's brown, and these dudes are all white, and they come about and they just like punching him and beating him up because he's wearing a Trump hat. Now, these guys don't care about race. They're racist themselves. All they care about is bringing down Trump. That's it. That is it. That's all they care about. Leftists hate democracy. If anyone but their candidates are in charge, they become violent and nasty. Precisely. I mean, whereas when Biden got elected, I didn't see any conservatives vandalizing and committing violence or shooting Biden supporters. Not once. I didn't see any of that once. They're all a bunch of hypocrites who project their sins onto us. Everything they're accusing us of doing, they're doing. They're standing with terrorists. They're standing with people being able to say that they're women and transfer to women's prisons. Just because they don't want to be in a male prison. So they can just say, oh, I feel like a woman now. You look at their record, they don't care about their record, but you would see that most of the people doing this, their records show that their crimes are essaying women. They don't care about that. They don't give one small inkling of a shit. No, I'm going, I watch Nick Shirley. I agree with what Nick Shirley has been uncovering. The proof is in the pudding. You're all being exposed. And nothing could make me happier, quite frankly. We've had enough of your lies. We've had enough of your slander. We've had enough of your violence. We've had enough of Antifa. We've had enough of the fakeness. We've had enough of the tyranny, you trying to control language, while also insisting on calling us all cis, which is a term coined by someone who wanted to make minor attracted persons a thing. They wanted to normalize pedophilia. Unbelievable. They could give less of a shit about how guilty the Clintons are, and whereas there's no proof that Trump went to that island, there's an abundance of proof that Bill Clinton was there, and Bill Gates, and others in that realm. There's proof, however, that Trump tried to expose them, and they wanted to blackmail him. They tried to blackmail him. They were corresponding amongst themselves in those files how they would blackmail Trump. And Jeffrey Epstein was like the king of blackmail. He tried to blackmail a lot of people. So that's why you got to be careful when trying to figure out who's guilty and who's not. Who's implicated and who's not. There are this is an interconnected web of depravity. And again, I'm disappointed in how the Epstein files are being handled, but I also think that there might be more to this than we ever thought, than we ever imagined. And Trump is focusing on very important things right now. Things that are immediate threats to our civilization and our country. Actually, I don't have the boomer delusion. Quite frankly, on the contrary, if you look at a lot of those protests, so many of them are boomers. No, I'm on the side of Nick Shirley. He's only 23 years old, man. He's a kid. And he alone, practically, for the most part, has brought attention to the entire world. What's going on in Minnesota and other places, LA, Gavin Newsom, that are committing fraud. Everyone I follow is a millennial or Gen Z. Honestly. Asmongold, my age. Nick Shirley, 23. Or Blair White, around my age. What a dumbass. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what I watch or where I get my information, you fucker. Anyway, sorry, excuse my French. That was just annoying. Yeah, young people really love Trump. Look at the RNC. It's full of young people. Precisely. So them trying to say, like, not only that, but they're, it's ageist. They're putting down old people, of course. They try to be so woke and so inclusive, but they're really not. They're really not. They're just afraid of being called racist. So they're not going to be honest about things. And they think it's cool and popular to put down white people, so they're going to do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Trump's hiding anything about himself, but I do feel like he's protecting people who shouldn't be protected. And he needs to feed them to the wolves. I wouldn't want anyone in my cabinet involved with Epstein, like the Epstein files, and any, it's one thing to just know him as an acquaintance, and that could just be Trump for all I know, because there's no proof that he was on the island. But there are some people who are definitely implicated in those files for doing something less than, decent. Terrible things. And it seems like they're still walking around just fine. No, a lot of people need to be put into prison, and that's what's kind of pissing me off. But other than that, he's a better choice than Kamala. Kamala definitely wouldn't have exposed those files because a lot of people on the left side are implicated in those files, and there's actual proof that they've been on the island messing around with children. But of course, all they care about is whether Trump was doing it. They don't care about anybody else. The only proof of Trump, of course, Trump is mentioned in those files, but it's, but under the, this whole subject of that whole letter is how to blackmail Trump and get rid of him because he was exposing them. But of course, they're just going to keep repeating the same old lies, same old, regurgitation. They don't care about the truth, whether they know it or not, They're hoping that he's implicated in those files. They'd be angry if he wasn't, if there was absolute proof. There's no proof that he was or wasn't right now. And, I see Trump as a means to a better end. He's not perfect. I have my own criticisms of him. I'm not ride or die. But I'd choose him over anyone from the Democratic Party. I see him as Trump walked so that Rubio could run. And that's how I see it. And Rubio will be a great president. I'll vote for him in a moment, in a second. Enjoy the live stream. Keep it positive and friendly. Thank you, Chris Max. The Democrats don't care about the girls in the files. They care about getting Trump. That's exactly what I just said, man. Precisely. Precisely. Absolutely. 100%. 110%, man. They don't care about the girls. They don't care about the children. They only care about implicating Trump. That's all they fucking care about. Oops. From what I've, yeah, Trump's in the files because they wanted to, they were trying to blackmail him, dude. Can you come up with any actual evidence that he's involved in pedophilia? Because guess what? A lot of people knew Epstein. Not all of them were involved in the depravity and harm done to children. Not all of them were involved in that. Some of them were just businessmen. Some of them were just doing finance or whatever. Socialites, you know, hanging out with the rich people. But Trump didn't go to that island, or at least there's no proof of it. And there's more proof on the contrary that he tried to expose them. He's been exonerated. So I don't know. But I'm voting for Rubio. That's what I do know. I'm voting for Rubio. I think Rubio's a good man. He's legit. You people who call him a felon, do you know how they came up with those felonies? I bet you don't. Oh yeah, I'll bet you anything they don't. I'll bet you anything. Woke cult compete with itself by virtue signaling. Yep. Trump hasn't exposed a single pedophile. He could prosecute the pedophiles, and he doesn't. Yeah, I think, Thomas, I think he should absolutely prosecute all the people where there's evidence of their crimes. Absolutely. I think Bill Gates should be put in prison right away. Right away. That guy's evil, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know what the holdup is. What he's waiting for there. Whether he's afraid of his family getting attacked, I don't know. But I wish that something could be done about these criminals. I wish there was a little bit more transparency there. Bill Gates and Fauci, exactly. Those people should go to prison right away. Right now. Hog tie them, tase them, and put them in prison. Treat them like you would any other terrible, terrible criminal like that. Epstein was a Democrat. It only stands to reason most of the files are with Democrats, and Trump was a Democrat at the time. Yeah. But Trump still, when he found out about Epstein's depravity, he was standing against that and blowing the whistle before anyone was talking about Epstein. And there's actual evidence, like I keep repeating, in those files where they're planning on blackmailing Trump. He's mentioned because they're trying to blackmail him. Like, why do people refuse to acknowledge that? It's right there in the evidence. Yeah, Bill Clinton, Fauci are so bad. I don't know about the PDF files, though. There's just no evidence. Yeah, unfortunately. It is frustrating. I agree with you. Ellen DeGeneres fled the country out of fear of Donald Trump and the DOJ prosecuting her. Yeah, she was mentioned in the files like thousands of times, wasn't she? She was associated with all the like code words like jerky, and I've seen other people censor this word on YouTube lately, which is very suspicious. You know? A lot of social media CEOs are involved in all this too. Just think about that. You know, like Jeff Bezos and Mark Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of people are implicated here. But yeah, there's absolutely no proof that, I mean, when they're talking about Trump in those files, most often, or from what I've seen, it's all blackmail. It's all, how do we get Trump to not expose us? You know? With everyone else, you're finding Clinton all over the place getting back massages from little girls. Sick. Same with Clinton. Same with Prince Andrew. At least, you know, the UK did one thing right, sending Prince Andrew to prison. Now they need to focus on protecting young girls and getting rid of the illegal immigrants who are committing these crimes. You know, and in fact, I don't know how popular this opinion is, but I would much rather the administration go after, the National fucking Guard, go after domestic terrorists, people in this country committing violence, than some like cranberry harvester, you know, who happens to be undocumented, you know, who's just trying to live their life, support their family, whatever. I'd rather that we crack down on domestic terrorists, whether they're, you know, I think we should deport those people, you know, regardless of what their stats are. If they're committing acts of terrorism, we should get rid of them. That's what I think. I think it's more important to focus on getting rid of the immediate threat of domestic terrorism than targeting an undocumented cranberry harvester or whatever, cherry picker, whatever. You know? That's just my 2 cents. They're more of a threat. In fact, they're more of a threat than any other group to America. You see, this person's like, oh my God, brainwashed maggots. Can you give me any, like, can you elaborate on that? Or are you just going to throw insults? Didn't think so. Just because you're in the files doesn't mean you did anything illegal. That's just reality, folks. I know, right? But they're just so desperate. They're just really holding on to the hope that they can implicate Trump in something very, very evil. They're just really, really, really grasping at straws, guys. You gotta give them credit. They're trying. They're really trying. Thank you. I love your hat, ma'am. That is pretty. I have a red one and I love it. Same. Same, dude. I'm truly independent. I have problems with Trump, but the other side is worse. Yeah, I agree. I'm the same. Same here. I have problems with how the Epstein files are being handled. But otherwise, I think he's doing a great job. I see him again as a means to a better end and getting someone else, you know, having someone better in power, even better, like Rubio or Vance. And I'd choose Rubio over Vance. Okay, just one hat. It's a little extra. I voted for Trump 3 times, never thinking he was perfect, but the left has just gone too radical for most. Exactly, Mike. Precisely. Same here. No one should have been forced to take the vaccine. No one should have been forced to do that. We all know there's a lot of sinister workings behind all that. You know, that was tyranny right there. All the leftists forcing people to wear masks. You know, you got tons of videos, you know, tons of footage of people just going to the store, going about their business, and some Karen comes up to them with a mask saying, you should be wearing a mask, you're selfish, you're a terrible person, blah, 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 harassing these people for not conforming to their demands. These people, they're power hungry, man. They're craving power. They want to they want to seize all power. They want to they hate Americans. They hate white people. They hate men. Shame on them, man. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They do not know how good they have it. These are people who act like who actually say that if you're a woman or a gay person, you're going to be treated better in places like Iran and Saudi Arabia. Literally, these people do think that. Good God. No, I support Trump, and I bought this merch before he got elected, before I knew how the Epstein files would turn out. I don't know. I support him, and I see him as a means to an end. He's not perfect. I'm not like ride or die. I'm not like I didn't vote for him because I thought he was a perfect human. God damn, that's a stupid argument. That was a really stupid argument, man. You can only vote for someone or support them if they're perfect, and you have to agree with everything they do. I support him because he is the better choice, and because, again, do I have to repeat myself? He's a means to a better end. He gets things done. He's making our country safe again. He's protecting women and children from you nut jobs. Or from the nut jobs. I don't know if you're a nut job. I don't mean you. I mean you as in plural, by the way. Sometimes you got to elaborate on everything with some of these people. No, so because you wouldn't buy presidential merch, you shouldn't? I know, right? I know. They're always trying to get you in a gotcha moment. Bitch, please, man. I got this during the election process. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad that Trump got elected. I donated a lot of money to that election, actually. And I'm proud of it. I wouldn't take it back. I do have criticisms, but that doesn't mean that I don't support him. That doesn't mean I don't stand by him. And I mean, if there was absolute proof that he was on the island hurting children, then yeah, I'd drop him like a hot potato. I don't know. I might even burn these hats if I found out he was doing that. But there's no proof of it. And I see him as a means to a better end, where we can have Rubio in the White House, or in the Oval Office, rather than a communist dictator. Money protects Bill Gates, yeah, and it's very annoying. It's very annoying. Did you see that guy shout out to Bill Gates and like, I forget exactly what he said, but it had something to do with him eating babies, allegedly. Let me see if I can find that. Let me see if I can find that. That was interesting. Woohoo! Sorry. Just kind of got all these pins in my hair. What's that? Oh, it's hot. I'm not taking my hat. Some people would say, oh, you're taking your hat off because you're ashamed of yourself. It's stupid. Stupid. I've actually had people say that. Oh, you're not showing your hat in the background. That must mean you're ashamed of it. Wowzers, trousers. Trump, Reagan, and JFK are the last three presidents who fought against the globalists, yeah? It's really no wonder that JFK got ended. Shit, Democrats and Fauci infected Americans with COVID on purpose to cheat an election. Yes, they did. And they didn't care if people died. Obama knows all about it. I'll say allegedly just for the sake of YouTube. But you're right, 100%. I'm a Pisces, by the way. I don't give any much credit to astrology, if any. But for what it's worth, I happen to be a Pisces. Yeah, Trump didn't put lockdowns. They're lying. They're absolutely lying. He also didn't shut down the government. That was the Democrats, and they did that to impede Trump and stop him from doing what he needs to do to keep our country safe. 100%. They do it to make him look bad too. They're scared of being exposed. That too. So yeah, some of these people are super ignorant. The Democratic Party is dead. The moderate JFK era is gone. It's been hijacked by socialist, communist infiltrators. Exactly. User over. Absolutely. What do I think of Thomas Massie? I don't know that much about him, but from what I've seen with him in interviews, he seems pretty all right. I'd have to look more into him though before I can actually, come have a good opinion on that guy. He's also kind of handsome. You don't know if I live in a cubicle or not. What the fuck? This isn't a cubicle, you dipshit. All the Democrat socialists want to do is smear Donald Trump, when in reality, he has done nothing wrong. It's a reflection of the wrongdoing and the corruption of the entire Democratic Party. Precisely. Because just think about it. Hollywood used to love Trump before he had that kind of power to expose them. They used to love him on The View, too. Those dumb hags. This is a trans, guys! Joke's on you, you little dumb shit. No, I'm not. Massey's a douche. I don't know much about Massie, that's what I'm saying. Someone asked me what I think of Thomas Massie. I don't know enough about him to have a informed opinion. Let me look him up. I can look him up I know what he looks like. I've seen him in a few interviews and shit, but I don't know many details other than that he is a member of the Republican Party. He's like a state representative, I think. Let's see. Let me see. So, okay.
But I don't think the problem, is that our elections aren't secure because we control the House, we control the Senate, we control the White House, and to some degree we control the Supreme Court. So I asked my Republican colleagues, why are you complaining about election fraud? We won all the damn elections. The fraud that's going on is we're not holding ourselves to the promises that we made of fiscal responsibility, putting America first, making America healthy. The problem is we're wasting the opportunity that we were given in these elections, that we won, all of them. But I don't think...
Yeah, but why are we having all these Democratic leaders trying to impede Trump's success? Why are we having them, trying to close down the government constantly, and judges going against Trump and trying to keep sanctuary cities intact so that we can make these cities more dangerous than they are, and you know, what about what Gavin Newsom is doing, and all, and what they're allowed to do in New York and Chicago, and there are a lot of people there who've lived there their whole lives, and they never asked for all this chaos and all this violence and all these illegal immigrants coming in, and all these fraudsters. Like, why is this all happening then? If they really, Trump is very much often impeded by the left, despite the power he has as president. There will always be the Democrats trying to stop him, trying to hold him up for as long as they can. I think he needs to completely get rid of the damn filibuster, 100%, so we can get shit done. I don't know about Thomas Massey. I don't know if I agree with him there. I'd love to go to New York someday, but not right now. Not just because of the heat wave. I mean, heat wave, man, that's terrible. But because there have been attacks on citizens by terrorists, domestic terrorists, and Mum Dummy doesn't seem to give a shit about it. He'll say anything, orchestrated by the PR team, but he supports terrorists, guys. I'll say allegedly for YouTube, but we all know it's true. He stands with terrorists. He was buddy with Hassan. Think about that. The Democratic Party is overrun with Marxists, exactly, and they tried to brainwash students in college. When I went to college, they were just shoving that shit down our throats, man. We were made to read the Communist Manifesto, which, for education purposes, I have nothing against that. But everything, like, they were just shoving that shit down your throat, like it was like that's what they want out of society now. It's crazy. Yep, exactly. Is it all possible for you people on the left to grow up and act like adults in a chat? I know, right? I know. I've made some claims, but all they can do is come out and insult me. That's all they can do. And people in my chat, all they can do is throw insults. That's all they're capable of. There's no logic, there's no reason, there's no good constructive argument to be had. Nothing. There's no question. There's I've very rarely, and it's happened maybe only 2 times, have I seen like someone who's a Democrat in my chat approaching me and the arguments we're having with respect, or from a we can agree to disagree standpoint. They never tell me I'm stupid. In fact, some of them even tell me I'm pretty bright, just that we can't really agree on those few topics, and that's okay. They throw the baby out the bathwater. Like, if I voted for Trump, they think that I must stand for everything he says and everything he does, and I don't. He's an imperfect human, just like all of us. I hold him to a very high standard. I'm very disappointed how the Epstein files have been handled. But I don't know all the details, all the ins and outs, or who's trying to stop him, or what all the dangers are associated with it, other than, I have a general idea. If the CIA and national security and all this other shit's involved, then yeah, it's more complex than we can fathom. I really do hope that, however, that the people who, where there's proof of their depravity on that island, they need to go to prison. They shouldn't be in the White House. They shouldn't be working for Trump. That doesn't look good. So I don't know. But he is getting a lot of good shit done too. Stuff that would never get done under Kamala. In fact, things would get way worse. Way worse. We'd be in deep shit. The whole country would probably be the way New York is right now. Someone named Dictator says, shame on you for existing. Yep, that's pretty much who they are. Bunch of wannabe dictators. They don't want to be dictated, but they want to dictate. They don't want, they want to be the ones in control. They want to be the ones controlling people. Controlling our language. Controlling, just democracy in general. Acting like it's calling us all racist when they're the ones being racist, and they're not just racist towards white people, they're racist towards everybody, the people on the left. It's telling like black people and brown people what their place in society should be, otherwise they're like traitors to their own kind. The way Kamala tried to appeal to black men by saying, you get free weed. Sick. Block them, please. Thank you, Tangent T. Yeah, they should be blocked. I just designated a few moderators who are really good. But yeah, we're going to end the live stream pretty soon here anyway. It's getting to be that time. I really need to fix my sleeping schedule. And I really need to start getting up earlier. So let's read some Bible verses, shall we? Yeah, but I still think he would have implicated Trump somehow. Back then when he was in power, I don't think anyone would have cared so long as they could have implicated Trump in anything. But even now they're being interrogated. Les Wexner, Bill Clinton, all these people, they're being asked, was Trump ever on that island? And every single one of them says no. So I don't know. Anyway, let's read the Bible. I'm going to end the live stream pretty soon here. Just going to read we're going to read 1 chapter and 4 verses. So we're going to chapter, I'm pretty sure it's like chapter 3 or 4 of Proverbs. Let's see. Yeah, chapter 3, Proverbs. Okay. Let me get my glasses here. Where'd I put those glasses? Oh. I'm always losing my glasses, guys. They might be over here though. One seckaroo. Glasses. Here they are. A little bit dirty. Yes, lens wipes. I'm gonna put these up somewhere where they don't get dirty because I don't like wasting too many lens wipes. There we go. Hee hee. Dun 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 dun. I'm still a little bit dirty. Yeah, put it on the inside there. You've been struck by a smooth criminal. Don't forget to like and subscribe. gang. Yeah. Okay. All right. Chapter 3 of Proverbs. Here we go. My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For length of days and years of life and abundant welfare will they give you. Let not loyalty and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them about your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. Honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine. My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline, or be weary of his reproof, for the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights. Happy is the man who finds wisdom, and the man who gets understanding, for the gain from it is better than gain from silver, and its profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast are called happy. The Lord by wisdom founded the earth. By understanding he established the heavens. By his knowledge the deeps broke forth, and the clouds dropped down the dew. My son, keep sound wisdom and discretion. Let them not escape from your sight, and they will be life for your soul and adornment for your neck. Then you will walk on your way securely, and your foot will not stumble. If you sit down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Do not be afraid of sudden panic or the ruin of the wicked when it comes. For the Lord will be your confidence and will keep your foot from being caught. Do not withhold good from those to whom it's due, when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, "Go and come again. Tomorrow I will give it," when you have it with you. Do not plan evil against your neighbor who dwells trustingly beside you. Do not contend with a man for no reason when he has done you no harm. Do not envy a man of violence, and do not choose any of his ways, for the perverse man is an abomination to the Lord. But the upright are in his confidence. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the abode of the righteous. Toward the scorners he is scornful, but to the humble he shows favor. The wise will inherit honor, but the fools get disgrace. I think I read that yesterday, but it's still a really good one. So let's read chapter 4 as well. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, "Let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. Do not forget, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Get wisdom, get insight. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you." Wow. Love her, and she will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a fair garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. Hear, my son, and accept my words, that the years of your life may be many. I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered. If you run, you will not stumble. Keep hold of instruction, do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of evil men. Avoid it, do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on, for they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble, for they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know over what they stumble. My son, be attentive to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not escape from your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to him who finds them, and healing to all his flesh. Keep your hearts with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you crooked speech, and put devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look directly forward, and your gaze be straight before you. Take heed to the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. It's such a good one. Very, very good. So that was chapter 4 of Proverbs. All right. Next time we will read chapter 5 there. 3 more verses. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And how about chapter 41, verse 10? Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. Behold, all who are incensed against you shall be put to shame and confounded. Those who strive against you shall be as nothing and shall perish. You shall seek those who contend with you, but you shall not find them. Those who war against you shall be nothing at all. For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not, I will help you. Beautiful. How about the Lamentations of Jeremiah? We'll read at least half of chapter 1. How lonely sits the city that was full of people. How like a widow has she become, she that was great among the nations. She that was a princess among the cities has become a vassal. She weeps bitterly in the night, tears on her cheeks among all her lovers. She has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies. Judah has gone into exile because of affliction and hard servitude. She dwells now among the nations, but finds no resting place. Her pursuers have all overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads of Zion mourn, for none come to the appointed feasts. All her gates are desolate. Her priests groan, her maidens have been dragged away, and she herself suffers bitterly. Her foes have become the head, her enemies prosper, because the Lord has made her suffer for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children have gone away, captives before the foe. From the daughter of Zion has departed all her majesty. Her princes have become like harts that find no pasture. They fled without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembers in the days of her affliction and bitterness all the precious things that were hers from days of old, when her people fell into the hand of the foe. And there was none to help her. The foe gloated over her, mocking at her downfall. Jerusalem sinned grievously, therefore she became filthy. All who honored her despise her, for they have seen her nakedness. Yeah, she herself groans and turns her face away. Her uncleanness was in her skirts. She took no thought of her doom. Therefore her fall is terrible. She has no comforter. O Lord, behold my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. The enemy has stretched out his hands over all her precious things. Yeah, she has seen the nations invade her sanctuary, those whom thou didst forbid to enter thy congregation. All her people groan as they search for bread. They trade their treasures for food to revive their strength. Look, O Lord, and behold, for I am despised. It is nothing to you, all you who pass by. Is it nothing to you, all who pass by? Look and see if there is any sorrow like my sorrow, which was brought upon me, which the Lord inflicted on the day of his fierce anger. From on high he sent fire, into my bones he made it descend. He spread a net for my feet. He turned me back. He has left me stunned, faint all the day long. My transgressions were bound into a yoke. By his hand they were fastened together. They were set upon my neck. He caused my strength to fail. The Lord gave me into the hands of those whom I cannot withstand. The Lord flouted all my mighty men in the midst of me. He summoned an assembly against me to crush my young men. The Lord has trodden as in a winepress the virgin daughter of Judah. For these things I weep, my eyes flow with tears, for the Comforter is far from me, one to revive my courage. My children are desolate, for the enemy has prevailed. I'm just going to read this whole chapter. Zion stretches out her hands, but there is none to comfort her. The Lord has commanded against Jacob that his neighbors should be his foes. Jerusalem has become a filthy thing among them. The Lord is in the right, for I have rebelled against his word. But hear, all you peoples, and behold my suffering. My maidens and my young men have gone into captivity. I called to my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and elders perished in the city, while they sought food to revive their strength. Behold, O Lord, for I am in distress. My soul is in tumult. My heart is wrung within me, because I have been very rebellious. In the street the sword bereaves, in the house it is like death. Hear how I groan. There is none to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that thou hast done it. Bring thou the day thou hast denounced, and let them be as I am. Let all their evil doing come before thee, and deal with them as thou hast dealt with me, because of all my transgressions, for my groans are many, and my heart is faint. Wow. 2 more. Two more verses, though. We're not going to read a whole chapter this time. Matthew chapter 5, verse 11 to 12. Blessed are you when men revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so men persecuted the prophets who were before you. I always like to read this because it's so applicable to recovery, guys. It's so applicable to recovery from addiction. Romans chapter 5, verse 3 to down to 6. More than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. And endurance produces character. And character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. 2 more. The letter of James chapter 1, verse 2 down to 6. Count it all joy, my brethren, when you meet various trials, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all men generously and without reproaching, and it will be given him. Very good. Yeah, exactly. Democrats hate all things Trump. If Joe Biden wanted the same thing as Donald Trump, they would have no problem. Precisely. I mean, Obama was the porter in chief, guys. Remember that? Remember his drone strikes? Trump's just obliterating the nuclear weapons so that they can't harm us. He's not attacking civilians, but Obama did. They don't care about that. They absolutely don't. It's evil. How about Psalms? One more, guys. This is a good one. And it's a whole chapter. Psalms chapter 13. How long, O Lord, wilt thou forget me forever? How long wilt thou hide thy face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul, and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Lighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death, lest my enemies say, I have prevailed over him, lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. But I have trusted in thy steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing to the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me. That's a very, very good one. I mean, these are all good verses here. Yeah, you know it. Okay, guys. Still here. Hey, 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 Gaminator. So we're gonna end the live stream now. It's 11 o'clock. That seems to be the time I usually end it. So thank you very much, user. Thank you, Gameinator. Thank you, you're right. Thank you, Joel Taurus. Thank you, Eddie. Amen. Pray for wisdom and knowledge. May his peace abound in your hearts. Amen. 100%. Thank you, strange Google Map shit. Thank you. God bless American freedom. Absolutely. Trump can't be bought. Absolutely. Thank you, Precision Driven. Thank you, thank you, Mike. Thank you, if you're here, thank you, Lewis, and thank you very much, thank you, so many trolls I have to get through. Thank you, I am Osimo. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of my new moderator. What, Chris Max? Was it Chris Max? Thank you, Chris Max. Wowzers. I know, right? Thank you, Bill Leslie. Look at the lefty using trans as a slur. Hilarious. I know, right? They always do. They always do. Isn't that crazy? It's absolute. I mean, they expose their racism. They're projecting 100% with all this shit. They, you know, all these insults they throw at us. 100%. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. All right. I think Chris Max may have left the chat. Anyway, guys. Yeah, I mean, we're ending the stream now. And I'm taking a little while saying goodbye to everyone. So that's all we're doing. You guys take care. All right? We don't need to be this divided. But I'm not going to stand with communists and liars. That's that. So, much love. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.